We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, consider subscribing to this channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Welcome in the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway in Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a PATC legend with your comments and with your phone calls. Woo! Last night, breaking news, Ross Dellinger, TCU was tipped off. They were tipped off by numerous schools, a whole lot of schools. Multiple schools within the Big Ten saying, Michigan, they're really good at stealing signs. They're really good at stealing signs. A whole lot of people knew at that time last year. But they did not know why Michigan was so good at it. They only knew that Michigan had the ability to seemingly know the opponent's hand signals at the beginning of the game. And it gave them a great advantage. Now we don't know the whole story yet. We're getting there. There's about 3 or 4 big questions. One of the things is when did the schools actually look in their data to see Connor Stallions if he had bought any tickets? When did they start doing that? That's a question I have. Was it just recently? Sometime this year they figured that out. Was it right after the Big Ten told Michigan State about the evidence that Michigan had stolen hand signals but using in-person scouting? Then is that when everybody started checking on their tickets and who bought the tickets? And then it was Connor Stallions. I think it actually happened maybe a little bit before that. I'm not sure. Now, of course, as we're going to go through the story, we're going to go through Ross Dillinger's story, TCU being tipped off. The big questions out there is, who hired the investigation firm that was able to legally or illegally get access to the Michigan's computers? Who hired the firm? That's a big question. Another big question is, who is providing the money in the budget that was found on the Michigan computer to do this in-person scouting scheme? Who's doing that? Where is that money coming from? A lot of other dots have been connected. So this story is, hopefully we'll get those questions answered. And the remaining part of the story, for me anyways, my opinion, you can tell me I'm wrong, but the remaining part of the story is, what's the punishment and the timing of the punishment? A lot of people believe that the NCAA will not get around to handing out any type of punishment until well into 2024, and I believe they're probably correct. But we have the Big Ten. Now, I didn't do a live show last night. I did. I was on Big 12 Rivals, but I did not do my own live show. Yesterday, I was a poking and a prodding on the story, and I'd have a little bit of information that I want to make crystal clear to everybody before we get to the Yahoo Sports article. I want to thank everybody that's come on in early. Skull Ducky, Ryan Brooks, head on a swivel even while traveling. Stephen McNeely, Bo Stacker, Kaufman, good morning, head on a swivel. The Evil Badger, Jeff Olson, thanks for coming on in. TW, Randy Taylor, Matthew Farmer. They were tipped off. By whom? It sounds like there was numerous schools that tipped off TCU. Matthew Farmer, AMAC, Steve, Bearcat Steve is in the house. Morning show, definitely keeping the head on the swivel. Jim Reese, thanks for coming on in. I appreciate it. Anything come out on the Florida State Board meeting? Interesting, not that I've heard of, but something odd. We'll get to that in a little bit, Jim. Hang on. I don't have any information in regards to the meeting itself, but we'll get into it in a little bit. Gorb, Sean, S. Reed, thanks for coming on in. John Ballard, Kyle Visser, Dale Donut back in the house. Utah had the same info on Alabama for the Sugar Bowl with data provided by Urban Meyer, Florida at the time. Bill G, thanks for coming on in. Appreciate it. Okay. Just let me get to, let me talk about, Okay. Now I'm trying to find it again. I lost it. Mm, 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 mm. Here we go. Um, on the Florida State board meeting, there was a board of trustees meeting this morning. Florida State virtual meeting. And at that, the fourth item on the agenda was the open forum for board of trustees. That's what I was interested in. Yes, they're talking about how to finance approving the renovations of the football stadium. That was the primary one point of discussion in this meeting. Okay? That's pretty much that was either 99% of this meeting or 100% of this meeting. But item number 4 was open forum for the board of trustees, and that got a lot of people's interest. Would the board of trustees talk about any issues they had with the ACC? Would they take the step forward in explaining more about what they possibly could do in the future? I don't know anything that was said in the Florida State Board of Trustees as of right now, and I know there's other people scrambling to see if there was anything said. The interesting part about it is Mike Baker, reporter, college football reporter for the Tampa Bay Times, he was checking in on this, and he says, anyone have a link to the Florida State Board of Trustees meeting, which I was looking for, and I was contacting other people hoping that they would have it. Nobody seemed to have it. Matt Baker said, so it doesn't appear as if this virtual Zoom meeting was streamed anywhere. I asked FSU, and they said the physical location was advertised. It was, but others have been streamed, not this one, apparently. And then Matt Baker finishes off and says, to be clear, I'm not suggesting anything is nefarious or anything like that. I just wanted to spend the morning of my day off watching it to write a story about the Board of Trustees voting on the 9-figure renovation to Doak, and to see if anything else was discussed in the open forum. Now, I don't know Matt Baker. I'm sure he doesn't know me. But I know other people, other reporters, were trying to figure out where the stream was. If you go to the history of the Florida State Board of Trustees meeting, and if they're not shown to be in executive session, they're streamed. All of them are streamed. I shouldn't say all of them, but it looks like all of them, a whole lot of them. So the question is, why wasn't this meeting streamed? I don't know. Interesting. It could be very well be nothing why it wasn't streamed. It should have been streamed. It seemed like it should have been streamed. It was a public meeting. At least it was advertised that way. It was an open forum for the Board of Trustees, not an open forum for myself and for yourself to talk, to get the open mic and talk in the board meeting. But it was an open forum for the Board of Trustees to talk. That indicates an open forum for everybody to hear. but it wasn't live streamed. So that's our update. Maybe something will leak out. I don't know. I do not know. So, now let's get to, I want to get to a little bit of the information that I have received in regards to this Michigan story. Poking and a prodding. From yesterday. Adam Rittenberg put this out yesterday morning, and I talked about this last night on the Big 12 Rival Show. Nathan Brown and Mo and Vision, Big Ten Ted was there. Great show, check it out. Adam Rittenberg said, confirm that the Big Ten can initiate its own investigation in the Michigan under the sportsmanship policy if it deems it necessary. That hasn't happened. But Commissioner Tony Petitti has authority to initiate a probe to determine whether an offensive action occurred. Under the Big Ten sportsmanship policy, any school under investigation will have the right to defend itself, outline its position, but disciplinary actions from the league are final and not subject to appeal. So in other words, we get back to the, now there's still more dots that have to be connected on this story. There's still big questions. We already talked about it. Who hired the investigation firm? How was the money? Who supplied the money to do this? And who knows what else is going to turn up? But we sort of have a sense, all of us, I believe, that the NCAA will not be able to do anything with information, this investigation, in regards to the final result of it for months and months and months and months, and possibly more than a year from now. We don't, usually it takes the NCAA a long time. They haven't even given the notice of allegations to the University of Michigan. That's important because once the NCAA gives notice of allegations to a school, that school has 90 days to present their position, to get all the information that the NCAA has and give their position. Michigan has not received a notice of allegations on this story, on this investigation. Michigan hasn't even received a notice of allegation on the recruiting story. And I don't know what they've received in regards to offensive coordinator Weiss, who they fired him off the job, and Michigan police and the state police and the FBI is investigating potential computer crimes across state lines. That investigation is separate from what we're talking about today, but just another add-on thing that the University of Michigan has to contend with. So the NCAA isn't going to get into the process. They're not going to be even discussing what to do next after this investigation, because for them it's not going to be over for a long time, and for them, they have to do the notice of allegation and everything. The Big Ten, don't work that way. I made sure it doesn't work that way. I asked the questions if it didn't work that way. Tony Petitti is limited in the punishment that he can hand out for most things that come across this table. If the commissioner has to step up and do something, he can do a $10,000 fine, some suspensions. If the punishment has to go above that. He has to have that voted on outside of his Big Ten office. Some subgroup within the Big Ten, probably the presidents. However, if it comes to unsportsmanship infractions, as someone explained it to me, integrity of competition. If someone blows by the line, blows by the guardrails, when it comes to the integrity of competition, there is no limit to what Tony Petitti can hand down as punishment. And there is no appeal process. There is no notice of allegations. Now, am I saying here at Peek Around the Corner that Michigan is going to get slapped with something before the season is over with a future bowl ban, or maybe it goes so far as you're not able to represent the Big Ten in the Big Ten championship game this year? I'm not saying that. Not today. Not October 27th. What I am saying is that Tony Petitti has a wide... He has the floor. In other words, he's got the room. He's got the space. If he wants to hand something down before the end of the season, he can. And Michigan is going to have to... They won't even have an appeal process. This is not a criminal case. This is not a civil case. Not when it comes to the Big Ten. It might become a criminal case and a civil case for Connie Stallions with the U.S. Naval Academy, because according to reports, he took data that he should not have received from 500 student-athlete midshipmen to create some sort of theory that he could present to coaches, and he presented it to Michigan, saying that student-athletes with a high GPA but with low test scores are overachievers on the football field as well. But that data didn't belong to him. Navy told him the next day, you got to present that, you got to wipe it out, you got to get rid of it. But yet somehow Connie Stallions was able to create this big data in one day. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, it's our opinion he did not get rid of that data because he built something out of it. So there are potential criminal and civil cases in all of this. But when it comes to the Big Ten, this is not a criminal case. This is not a civil case. This is the Big Ten trying to uphold integrity in competition. Look, people are asking, who hired the investigation firm to get access into the Michigan computers? Did it happen illegally? Is it fruit from the poison tree? In other words, we can't take any of this information if it was accessed illegally. And Big Ten can't do anything with this information. NCAA can't do anything with this information. I disagree. Again, this is not a court of law. This is not a criminal or civil case. Now, I'm not saying it did come illegally. In fact, my hunch is the computers were accessed legally by an investigation firm hired by maybe by the institution itself, the University of Michigan, or the state of Michigan that has oversight on the University of Michigan. But I don't know. If I had that information, I'd be doing some reporting today on that. But even if it came in illegally, fruit of the poison tree doesn't help Michigan. They're going to have to deal with the information that was found, and the information that was found was something big. One other thing, and I know I keep saying one other thing. First of all, if you're new to this channel, please subscribe to this channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. If you want to donate to this channel, get your comments read as soon as possible. Hit that $. It's the only way we keep the lights on is through your donations. The one aspect I want to, one thing to think about is the investigation firm gave it to the NCAA. The investigation firm, were they looking at the in-person scouting scheme that is prohibited under the NCAA rules, or were they looking for something else? You see, whoever was looking at this computer, going through this information, I am not sure how many people would have said, hey, look at this. This is downloaded video from an iPhone from a different stadium for a different team, showing the other team's coaching staff downloaded. Oh, look, this is a calendar of where all these interns, Michigan interns, are going to go, and they're going to go to these stadiums. Oh, here's a budget of this operation, $15,000. I mean, I still got to think that most people would look at all that and say, this is college football. This is not illegal. This is not prohibited. There's nothing. So for me, whoever was looking at this was either A, this is what they were looking for, or B, it's somebody with a athletic department, sports background in college sports, knowing the rules and regulations. So I think your average person, and I'm not trying to rip on the average person, would look at this stuff and they would not say, oh, look at this. This is illegal. I'm not sure they would have had that in their mind at the time if they were looking at something different. So my opinion, just an opinion, just speculation, is that whoever got access to the Michigan computers, it was legal and they knew what they were looking for, or they were not surprised what they found. They were tipped off. This Michigan in-person scheme was pretty big. And maybe we're going to find out it's even bigger. And there's a lot of people there that have to keep their mouth shut for this not to pop open. And when we read the TCU story, a lot of teams knew something was up. Michigan was stealing, had the signs stolen before the game even started. They were way better than anybody else. How were they doing it? And Michigan, they didn't know that the other teams were being mighty suspicious. They had to know that other teams were mighty suspicious. But yet, they kept doing it. This year in 2023, they had all these people going to these football stadiums, filming the game, downloading the video back into the Michigan computer. Let's get to the story. Yahoo Sports. Sources. TCU knew of Michigan's sign stealing scheme prior to the college football playoff game, using dummy signals to dupe the Wolverines. Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports, last night. During TCU's game against Michigan in last year's college football playoff semifinal, trickery was afoot. Now, I provide a link in the description below the video. You can read the whole article. TCU's coaches, having gained information on Michigan's elaborate sign-stealing scheme, changed many of their play call signals before kickoff. However, head coach Sonny Dykes and the Horned Frog staff had grander ideas than just changing signals. They pulled a fast one on the Wolverines. They mixed in new play call signals with old ones, using what one TCU staff member described as dummy signals in an effort to trick the Michigan staff. The dummy signals were old play calls that had since been changed. Players were told to ignore the dummy signals and run the original play as called with the new signals. Sometimes we froze the play before the snap, said one TCU coach. We'd call a play and then we signal in another with an old signal, but we told players to run the original play. TCU, 7.5 point underdog, beat Michigan 51-45 in the semifinal clash in the Fiesta Bowl, stunning much of the college football world in the victory that propelled Dykes' team to the national championship game against Georgia. The Horned Frogs lost that game 65-7, but their semifinal victory stands as one of the most incredible upsets in the history of college football playoff and now serves as another wrinkle in what's evolved into college games version of Deflategate. A week into the saga, most know the details by now, and we don't have to go through those details. We all know the details. Over the last 7 days, more news connected to the case has trickled out from various media outlets. They go through the Washington Post story here in this Yahoo last night. We've been through that already. We're going to skip down. Again, the breadth of the scheme appears massive. Stalions purchased tickets to games in 12 or 13 Big Ten. He also bought tickets for SEC games. We're going to skip that part of the article. We're going to skip the part where Stalions bought a ticket to the Tennessee game against Kentucky. We already went through that yesterday and the day before. At TCU, the school has found no evidence that Stalions purchased a ticket to a home game last season. But there were ample opportunities to record the Horned Frogs in road games or in the Big 12 championship game against Kansas State. Not long after the playoffs unveiled the 2022 semifinal matchups, Georgia versus Ohio State and TCU versus Michigan, the Horned Frogs staff began receiving phone calls from coaches across the country about what was a well-known fact in the Big Ten coaching community, that Michigan had an elaborate sign-stealing system. They didn't know quite what it was. They just knew Michigan was far out advanced than anybody else. Right? Many of those on the TCU staff were unaware before the calls. Coaches from several Big Ten schools, including Ohio State, informed TCU coaches of the scheme. Literally everybody we talked to knew. One TCU coach. They say, just so you know, they steal your signals and they're going to have everything, so you better change them. One coach told the staff that Michigan had the most elaborate signal stealing in the history of the world. The most elaborate signal stealing in the history of the world, which is fantastic for Michigan. Unless of course, you're doing it by in-person scouting, which the evidence seems to be overwhelming that they did. TCU changed some of the signals. More interesting, though, it is that they purposely used the old signals to trick the Wolverines. In other words, this in-person scouting of Michigan had a lot to do, along with TCU, of course, in losing that football game. They tricked the Wolverines over and over and over in this game. Dykes is a protege of Mike Leach, a coach known for poking fun at those who steal signals. In one game while coach at Washington State, Leach learned that the coach of his team's next opponent, Arizona State, Todd Graham, was notorious for stealing signals. During a game against Arizona State, Leach aggressively flashed signals toward Graham in a hilarious moment that's made the rounds on social media over the last few days. Take a look at that. It is absolutely hilarious. Plenty of folks see much of Leach and Dykes, so why not give the Wolverines some of their own medicine? Dykes and the staff crafted a game plan that at least in part used the dummy signals to fool Coach Harbaugh and Signature Stallions. TCU scored the first half touchdowns on drives at 10 plays for 83 yards, 12 plays for 76 yards. And Frogs scored more points than Michigan than any team that season, 51, eclipsing the next highest scoring opponent by 24 points. The guy, Stallions, was wrong a couple of times. One TCU staff member said, "We rewatched the TV version of the game. You can see him standing next to the defensive coordinator. He tells something to the coordinator. He points in the air to mean pass. You can see the play sheets he's holding with our hand signs on them." Now, you might be the greatest signal stealer in the world during the game. But you can't be so good to make placard of the other team's hand signals before the game even starts, unless you're doing what? Unless you're, well, I think we know how they did it. We know how Michigan did it. TCU did a variety of measures to avoid the issue beyond changing some signs. The staff purposely signaled in plays late as to not leave enough time for the Stallions to relay the signal to the coaches. "There are some times in the game they still got us," a TCU staff member said, "especially on short yardage. Signal stealing is not against NCAA rules. However, the association prohibits coaches or staff members scouting games of upcoming opponents in person, a near 30-year-old rule. Stealing an opponent's signals during a game or from a television broadcast is not against the NCAA rules. In fact, it's quite common in college football. Through history, plenty of opposing coaches have been caught by rival schools scouting games, spring games, or practices. Yet many of them go unpublicized and are quietly dealt with by the NCAA. The Michigan case represents the largest scale sign stealing scheme ever publicized in the recent history of college sports. It's no surprise that the system eventually leaked because of its sheer size and foolish moves. Stallions bought tickets in his own name. A Michigan staff members used large white play sheets during games on the sideline that showed the opposing team's hand signals in black, still shots of which have made their way across the internet. Big Ten coaches caught on long ago. As Yahoo Sports reported last week, news of the sign stealing spread through the multiple Michigan opponents this season dropped their signaling and used wristbands for much of the offensive play calling during the game against the Wolverines. We heard they had a guy pick plays pretty good and had all this information from not your typical ways of getting the signals, a Big Ten staff member said. We get into the game, it's the second quarter, I see him across the field, and he's checking his 11-by-17 sheet. And finally, in the article, the sign stealing dates back to at least 2021, according to sources. The Wolverines have won 33 of the last 36 games. They're 8-0, ranked number 2 in the country. They have a bye week before their home game against Purdue. A timeline for the NCAA investigation is unclear. It only started last week. NCAA inquiries such as this often extend months, if not years, and feature an even more lengthy appeal process that could delay any potential penalties levied. So that's the article. TCU was tipped off by numerous schools, including numerous Big Ten schools. Everybody knew that the Big Ten had the highest level of signal stealing. And how did they do it? Everybody eventually found out. Their opponents, Michigan future opponents, their games were filmed and then loaded into their computer It's all on there on the computer, and that's how they were able to spend time knowing the signals of their future opponents. You remember this. TCU had plenty of time to do this. They had weeks before since their Big 12 championship game versus Kansas State until when they played in the playoffs. During the regular season, you don't have all this time to be changing your plays, to be changing your signals. There's no way. You can't spend all your time keep changing signals. You're trying to get your team ready for the game. These student athletes don't have all the time in the world during the week. That's why the rule was put into place in the first place in 1994. So give me your thoughts on that big story. TCU was tipped off. And if you remember, we did a watch party on that game. We did a watch party. It was a fun night. A lot of people came in to the chat. We watched it together. And we all kept saying, it wasn't just me. Everybody was saying, what is Michigan doing on defense? I kept saying, Michigan lost this game in the locker room. They kept blitzing and blitzing and blitzing. Max Duggan. The pre-game, I said, and a lot of people on TV were saying the same thing. Max Duggan and his TCU offense is not an offense you want to blitz. Have them go 80 yards down the field. They're a big play team. Max Duggan has wheels. He can avoid the rush. He makes big plays off the blitz. And Michigan seemed to be confused on defense. They seemed to keep blitzing, and the TCU Horned Frogs had that hot route, the perfect play set up to beat the blitz. During the game, I said it almost looks like TCU knows what Michigan is doing. And why Michigan kept blitzing play after play, I think they were absolutely confused. Now that we heard the story, they didn't know that TCU had figured them out. Let me get to your comments. Then we'll get to phone calls. You can talk about anything college football. We're going to go through the conference races as well. We're going to get through the conference races as well. Curtis Brown, happy Cloak and Dagger Friday, everybody. Yes, sir. Tim W. TCU tipped off. Holy smokes. Dale Donuts, God bless Kliakoff in Michigan for the year of fun in college football. Again, the rule doesn't prohibit signal stealing. If you're going to use signals or signs, you have to change them. And many teams do almost regularly if you're smart, your signals. No, the rule does not prohibit signal stealing. The rule prohibits in-person scouting. And if the reports are true, Michigan did in-person scouting. They took that film, they took that information, and then they used that to steal the signs. So, stealing signs is not the illegal part of it. It's the in-person scouting. And once they found out that Connie Stallions was buying these tickets at all these stadiums, and then they had surveillance video from a stadium seeing a person in the seat that Connie Stallions bought, and he filmed at least more than 1 hour, at least, they said at least 1 hour of the game, of the Michigan's future opponent's sideline, the coaching staffs. And then in the last report we heard that video from those phones using the phones to record the Michigan's future opponent coaching staff, they would be downloaded into this Michigan computer days after the game at a different stadium that they filmed. That's in-person scouting. That's prohibited. This is a known rule. All these coaches have come out and said, never heard of anybody doing that. This is a big taboo. Bob Stoops, I can show you Bob Stoops' comment. Bob Stoops, if this is true, oh, absolutely, that's ridiculous. Listen, Everyone acts like it happens all the time. No, it doesn't. I've never heard that in all my years of football. Everywhere. Every team I've ever been on, sure. Do we look across the field? And if you can see it, that's your job to do. If I'm able to, just in my plain eye, to look over there and know what they're doing, I should be doing that. But the video people, or to send people to scout and marry up a signal with a play, no, that's terrible. It goes against everything we're about. That's wrong. The idea that all this is about stealing signs, no, it's not. It's about in-person scouting to help you steal the signs. Because in an all 22 video, you can't see the sidelines. In game tape that every team gets, you can barely see the sidelines. Why do you think Michigan was so far advanced than everybody else in stealing the hand signals? It's because of the in-person scouting. Trice Summerall, I am okay with you disagreeing with me, but don't use the language. This is a warning. Do not use that language in this chat. You can disagree. Everything I'm saying has been reported on over and over again. What's the point of the rule existing if punishment for breaking it can't be enforced? Well, that's the problem, isn't it, Steve? There will be a punishment. I believe there'll be a punishment from the NCAA, but it's not going to cost Jim Harbaugh anything. It's not going to cost the coaching staffs anything. They're all going to be gone. Jim Harbaugh's not going to be sticking around, I don't think. So by the time the punishment comes down, the people that are going to be affected by it are people that were not there when it was going on. That is a problem. That's why everyone's looking at the Big Ten right now. Will the Big Ten step up? Do they have enough time to step up for this year? We shall see. That's what everyone's looking at, not the NCAA. Thank you for the super chat, Gorb. I appreciate it. I wonder if teams have done nothing about Michigan because, like what TCU did to Michigan, confuses them, waste their time and money. Who knows? I believe, and it seems to be. Thank you for the super chat, Gorb. I appreciate your generosity to the channel. Appreciate it very much. There is no report out there that shows that they absolutely knew how Michigan was doing this. They knew Connor Stalions was the guy who was giving the information to the defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator, but there was no information until they started checking out Connor Stalions and if he was buying any tickets or not. And sure enough, he was buying all these tickets under his own name. Then that's when this thing unraveled. But see, I don't know if they did the checking of the tickets before or after Big Ten notified Michigan State. I think it was before Big Ten notified Michigan State. I believe in this playoff, they might have had the suspicions about the in-person scouting, but during that TCU game, Michigan game, before the game, they had their suspicions, obviously, because Michigan was so far advanced than anybody else. I mean, they knew that Connor Stalions had a placard with their hand signals on the placard. Now, let me ask this question. Let me ask this question. Tice is saying people are acting like this is Baylor or Penn State. This is just a different animal, Summerall. Baylor and Penn State had to do with the absolute incredible pain that was inflicted on innocent people. That is a huge, nothing can compare to that. This has to do with competition. Actually on the field. Let me ask you a question, Tice or anybody else. What if TCU would not have been tipped off by anybody? What if nobody told them? TCU would have went into that game and Michigan would have had a great advantage. That's what's wrong with this. Michigan established a great advantage over everybody. Those which they did not need the great advantage, and those who they very well could need this advantage of in-person scouting. That's the problem. Yeah, if a bank out there, thank you, Back Bay 22, if a bank finds out there's a conspiracy to rob it and beef up its security, does that make the conspiracy okay? No, it don't. Now, a great point. Now, everybody's spending all this time trying to get around Michigan's ability to steal signs better than everybody else. They have to spend all this time with wristbands, telling their players, we're not going to do signals. We're going to do... No, that's not okay. It's just not okay. None of this is okay. I get it. This is an orchestrated hit job. Well, what's the conspiracy then? I mean, what's the proof that it was a hit job? What if it's just Michigan got? What if they just got caught? What's the evidence that other schools are doing this? I don't think they are. But if one of them is, let me know. But this is a huge, massive advantage for Michigan over everybody else. And you notice that the tickets that Connor Stallions bought for the Ohio State-Penn State game were not used. Why weren't they used? If this is okay, if this is an orchestrated hit job, if this is a conspiracy, if this is a smear, why weren't those seats? Why didn't anybody sit in those seats? Both sides of the field, Connor Stallions bought the tickets. Why did not anybody sit in those seats? Because it's wrong. And because somebody would have asked the person sitting in the seat, saying, who gave you these tickets? Because Connor Stallions know he got. He's suspended. Michigan knows it. There's no other explanation that I can see. They do advanced scouting in high school. Again, filming the other team during the game to get signals is prohibited under the NCAA. It doesn't matter what's going on at Pee Wee football, in high school football, in the NFL, in the XFL, in the USFL. There is a rule. It's become black and white. Okay, so I'm going to open up the phone lines. (763-260-1333). In the meantime, go ahead and give us a call. Talk about anything college football that you want. I'm just going to check out a few things here. Give me a second. I'm just checking out a possible. I saw. I've gotten a couple of DMs on a Michigan insider explaining that the internal investigation, he believes the internal investigation came from Michigan. That all this came from Michigan. And the investigation firm gave the information over to the NCAA. Now, of course, I don't know if that's true. I have no idea if that's true. I would say that that's what I said at the start of the show, in the sense that if it came from the University of Michigan, this investigation, or by the state of Michigan, that's how they were able to get access, and that's how they knew what they were looking for. But again, I don't know. No one knows that yet. It's not been reported on who hired the investigation firm. Now, you can give us a call here. Peek around the corner. Give us a call. 763-260-1333. In the meantime, we're going to go over the conference races. Because this is some of these races are fascinating. We're now in the week 9, baby. We're getting there. Everyone's getting all lathered up. You can see the storylines being created in these conference races. Gorb risking Michigan's rep to gain an advantage is asinine. Thank you for this super chat. I appreciate it. Thank you. Again, it is who hired the investigation firm is going to, once we get that answer, we are going to learn so much more. We're going to learn so much more about this story. And then the other big shoe to drop is the Big Ten. What type of punishment and what is the timeline on their punishment? Okay. Let's get to these conference races. We're going to go one by one. The American Athletic Conference, Tulane, SMU, in the Roadrunners, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. Before the season started, we talked about the Roadrunners in Tulane. That game, UTSA in Tulane, November 25th, the end of season. That's going to decide, I believe, one of the teams, whoever wins that game, is going to the American Athletic Conference Championship game. The loser of that game could also be going to the American Athletic Conference Championship game. SMU right in there at 3-0. UTSA getting their act together. First year in the AAC. They stumbled a little bit in the non-conference, but they got it going. They're 3-0. First year in the American Athletic Conference. Remember, UTSA is the two-time reigning Conference USA champions. But during their last realignment wave, they went up a level, and they're in the American Athletic Conference, and they are playing pretty well in the new conference. In the ACC, we've got ourselves a humdinger on who's going to be in the ACC championship game along with the Florida State Seminoles. Florida State's 5-0, 7-0 overall. Louisville Cardinals, first year Jeff Brom, 3-1. The North Carolina Tar Heels. They lost to Virginia. They're 3-1. Virginia Tech Hokies. They're 3-1. Duke Blue Devils 2-1, but they got injured once again. Well, really never recovered. Riley Leonard, the quarterback. Now, North Carolina doesn't play Florida State during the regular season. So that's who's going to get that second spot. Without divisions, we're going to get some. I think there's a better chance that tiebreakers are going to play a part in it. There could be two teams tied for second place that did not play each other during the season in these bigger conferences. In the Big 12, the Oklahoma Sooners 4-0. They're playing the Kansas Jayhawks this week, 2-2, again without Jalen Daniels. Kansas State Wildcats, the defending Big 12 champions, they're lurking. They're still lurking, 3-1. The Longhorns, they lost a tough, close game to Oklahoma. Quinn Ewers is out for at least this week. He's going to be week to week. It sounds like Malik Murphy's is the backup, and Arch Manning is going to potentially get some playing time. Sarkisian said that they're looking at getting Manning some snaps.
Call from
Anthony Manzano.
Anthony Manzano, thanks for giving me a call. The floor is yours, sir.
Hi, Greg. How are you, Paul? I have a question, actually. When it comes to this whole thing with Michigan, the scandal, would you say this scandal is as bad as the Spygate incident with the Patriots in the NFL, or it's not? It doesn't go that far where they were actually recording the game and stuff like that.
Well, it's hard to know because we don't know the whole story of the Michigan scandal, right? We don't know what's next to drop. We don't know if, we're hearing these other stories that haven't been confirmed. They're probably not true. But did Michigan, did they help South Carolina defeat Tennessee? Stuff like that. I don't believe that's probably true, but we don't know the extent of the story, so it's really hard to compare right now. Potentially, yes, this could be even a bigger scandal than that, in my opinion.
Than the Spygate incident, where they were actually using recording, where they actually used recording equipment and stuff like that to record the game, during practices and stuff like that?
I said potentially because we do not know the extent of this story with Michigan. You got to remember here. Now, you got to remember here. It's not like Michigan's handing over this information, right? An investigation. Well, I shouldn't say that. We don't know the extent of the story because, every day something else is dropping. This could be even bigger than what we are even conceiving right now. So it's difficult to say what is the bigger scandal, in my opinion.
It's hard to predict because the full story hasn't come out, and a guy like what's his name, Harbaugh, is refusing to release information for the investigation that the NCAA is conducting right now, right?
Yeah, he's already being investigated you talking about the recruiting thing?
No, I'm talking about this. I thought the NCAA were investigating.
You're
investigating this situation too.
Yeah, NCAA is currently investigating this situation with the in-person scouting. Yes.
Which to me it's a benign thing. You see that in the NFL when they're scouting teams for the week ahead. You're watching their tape and you go to send your scouts to scout their players.
Yeah, you can't do that in the NCAA.
Oh, you can't?
No, you can't. It's in the rules. It's prohibited. In-person scouting is prohibited. You cannot send people to film. You can steal signs from a game tape that you get weekly, every week. You can try to steal signs from the All 22 tape, which doesn't even show the sidelines. But you cannot steal signs by sending people to film the other opponent's, your future opponent's sideline. All that is prohibited. All that's been illegal since 1994. And every coach that has come out and talked publicly about it said they have never heard anyone trying to do this, that no one's ever talked about doing this. This is a big taboo. This is too much of an advantage for one team to do it. No one else does it. So this is not the NFL. This is the NCAA.
Okay. And for the, do you think it's too soon, like, to actually say Miami's out of having a chance to go to, after losing to both Georgia Tech and North Carolina, but beating Clemson? Do you think it's too soon to say they're out of a chance to go to the ACC championship?
No, they are not eliminated. They are not eliminated from getting to the ACC championship game. They can still get there. Even though
they lost to opponents that they might be competing to get into the conference, into that championship game.
Yeah, they still got a shot, in my opinion. That backup quarterback, he looked pretty good. He looked pretty good against Clemson. I watched that game. No, they still got a shot.
No, the reason why I asked that is because I watched ESPN and they were talking about the conferences and what teams. They say Miami's out of it because of the fact that they already lost to Georgia Tech, who's 2-2 ahead of them, and North Carolina, who is 3-1. So they would have if we have to go up against Clemson, North Carolina, or Georgia Tech to see who gets we get eliminated. Like, even though if we end up with the same record, they have the tiebreaker against us and stuff like that. Mm. So
I mean it's an uphill climb, but there's still, Miami's still got what, five more conference games.
Boston College. We have, I think, do we face Duke this year? I can't remember. I think we face Duke. We have NC State, Pittsburgh, and stuff like that, and I don't think we have Notre Dame on our schedule this year.
I got the schedule. I got the schedule put up on the screen. You play Virginia tomorrow, NC State on November 4th, Florida State, Louisville, Boston College. So it's definitely an uphill climb. But if you sweep those games, you beat Louisville, you can beat them in a tiebreaker. Florida State loses somebody. It's an uphill climb. The chances are not good. But the question, your original question is, are they eliminated? I would say they're not eliminated.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand why the national media is saying we're out of the ACC championship possibility of getting here's we're 1-2 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We still have, if we beat Florida State or Louisville, who have better records than us, that actually bolts us up, correct?
Yep. You still got a shot. You got a chip in the chair. In other words, you got at least a poker chip, and you're sitting in the chair. You're still in the game. You got a chip in the chair.
But can you
chip in the chair and a chance.
And Greg, but can you explain why the national media say Miami?
I don't know. I did not hear it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why they said
like
that.
College Football Live and stuff like that, like the people who do the rankings and stuff like that, and they were doing, what are your opinions on the recently released playoff rankings? Are there teams that you felt that didn't really deserve to be in as high as they were ranked and stuff like that?
Well, the playoff rankings, the first one comes out this Tuesday night. So they haven't come out yet. What you're looking at is the AP poll voting or the coaches poll.
No, because they had it. They did a show on the playoff rankings a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, well, those were not playoff rankings. Not by the playoff committee. Not by the playoff committee.
That was the AP or coaches poll that I was.
This Tuesday night is going to be the first playoff ranking. And here at PATC, we're going to be doing a live show when they unveil the rankings, and we're going to all bitch and moan about who's where. And it's going to be a fun time. So everybody join us Tuesday night. We're going to be doing a watch party during the...
Everybody knows who's going to be number one, though. It's going to be Georgia. Let's be honest. Number one is going to be Georgia, to be honest.
Yep. And I think
Yeah, no, but what's gonna surprise is every ranking after Georgia, because Georgia's already is number one, the best team in the nation. In my honest opinion, I'm a Hurricanes fan. They're the best team in the nation, to be honest.
Yeah.
And the crapshoot 2 through 10 is a crapshoot to see who's going to be in the rest of the top 10. You agree?
Yeah, I agree. It's a crapshoot.
My call, Greg. Have a good day.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the call, man. Call again.
Okay.
The Moen Show. Check it out. Moen Show on YouTube. Super Chat. Thank you, Moen. Thank you for your generosity to this channel. Not with just your Super Chat, but with everything else you do for us. I appreciate it. Tony Petiti needs to do the right thing. The conference championship game in the postseason ban for this year. Then let the NCAA handle the 2024 and beyond punishment. And I might be naive. I might be the most naive person in the chat. I'm definitely the most naive person in the studio because I'm the only one in the studio. I think there's a chance it would happen. It's going to happen. First of all, Tony Petiti has the authority. And I think he probably has enough time to do it. I might be naive on this. I might be way off. I'm just, from what I'm sensing, from what people... No one has said to me, yes, Tony Petiti's going to slap down a punishment before the season ends. No one has told me that. But they have said, yeah, he's got the space to do it. He's got the authority to do it. That this story is as bad as we think it is. He has the right to do it. He has the evidence to do it. The question is, will he do it? And is he getting enough of the information? It sounds like he is, though. It sounds like he is. It sounds like the NCAA is giving him all the information. Because, look, the Big Ten is the one that called Michigan State to give them the heads up. So Big Ten is getting at least some information. But are they getting enough information for Tony Petiti to make a unprecedented call on Michigan, on anybody in the conference when it comes to sportsmanship policy? Will he be able to get enough information to make the call? Because remember, Michigan's not going to be able to appeal his call on this. Thanks again, Moen Show, Moen Vision, for your generosity. I very much appreciate it.
Call from
JD.
JD, Mr. Seminole is on the line. The floor is yours, but I got a question for you first.
Sure.
There was no streaming available for myself and other lurkers out there, other reporters out there, for the Florida State Board of Trustees meeting. Do you have any information on why that was?
No, because I was looking for it myself.
Yeah.
In Florida, you have the sunshine laws where there's I forget what the number is, but when so many public officials meet, the contents of their meeting or whatever, it has to be disclosed. So maybe this will just be transcript only.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure they have to publish it now, today.
Yeah.
But typically Board of Trustees meetings are usually live streamed. So that's interesting. Not necessarily any type of anything of note that you automatically assumed anything realignment was discussed, but again, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'll say this: typically, when something's coming, the media gets tipped off. And I even looked to Matt Baker, who covers him for the Tampa Bay Times, and he knew when the initial, back in February, when those comments were going to be made. Somebody tipped him off. Somebody at the Moore Center at FSU.
But did you hear Matt Baker's statements this morning?
No, sir, I didn't. I didn't see. I looked on his Twitter page when I had a minute, but then I didn't see anything, and then he might have posted something afterwards.
Well, he made a comment of, and I'm paraphrasing. I had the comments up earlier, but he made the comment of, first of all, he asked, "Does anybody know? I can't find the live stream, Florida State live stream." And then he said, "It doesn't look like," he called Florida State, and they didn't really give him an answer. He said, I don't believe there's any nefarious things going on here, but normally these things are live streamed, and I wanted to catch the information in regards to the renovations of this football stadium." And then he also said, and whatever other things they were going to talk about in the open forum. He said open forum, which is the part that I was interested in. So he had his ears pointed upward, he was like, I want to see if anything's said. And then they didn't even provide a live stream, so he's questioning why.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't know. See, everybody always jokes about the Florida man, because there's all these things going on around the internet about all these crazy stories in Florida. And it's because of the sunshine laws. They have to disclose all the information on anything of public record. So in other states where somebody with, commits a crime, law enforcement doesn't necessarily have to release all the details. Well, in Florida, you have to. So that's why everything seems a little crazier down here. But, it could be, like you say, I know they'll have to release a lot of the details. I might be wrong. Maybe they don't have to live stream it or have to release the transcripts of everything that was said in the meeting. But it's kind of curious that it wasn't publicly available. Now, I know they were talking about a lot of public financing or public or private financing of the renovations of the stadium, and then also the football-only facility. The football-only facility, the new one, just got started. It's just they can't really ramp it up till after football season because they've got to displace some things. But yes, sir. I was looking for it myself. But usually, like I said, they'll tip. Well, in the past, when they wanted it to be publicly, discussed or made public, they would tip media off, and then they were there. But maybe today it's they didn't want that, so we'll see, and maybe it wasn't even discussed. Peter Collins at the last Board of Trustees meeting, he kind of tampered down expectations and saying anything realignment. Any realignment statements you shouldn't expect it till after the season.
Well, the one part I remember is he said, "And you are all going to hear from us real soon on this subject." So,
well, the most recent Board of Trustees meeting was a much bigger meeting. It wasn't, I mean, they were all in person, and it was in a much bigger venue. And nothing was said in that. I mean, well, President McCullough had made a reference, and you could tell what he was alluding to was that, you know, FSU's future and talking about how they're moving to put FSU in the best position athletically to compete into the future. And then he made a reference that academia doesn't move at the speed that we would always want it to. And I'm paraphrasing there. So he was kind of giving a hint to everybody, we're working on it. It's not going quite as quick as we want, but we're working on it, and it's coming soon. That's just me throwing my comment in there. But there was an interview after that meeting where some of the FSU reporters had they talked to Peter Collins and a few other Board of Trustee members, and then that's what Peter Collins said. I can't remember which. I think it was Bob Ferrante or somebody with the Osceola had asked Peter Collins, and he got him on video saying, you shouldn't expect any more realignments. Those type of statements till probably after the season. Yeah. And that wasn't during the meeting; it was afterwards. Yeah. So the general public didn't normally see that. But did you see? It was referenced on the boards this morning. I think Regal posted it, but it was something that was caught when the ACC basketball media days, just in the last few days, some of the interviews. There was one ESPN article, and Tony Bennett, the UVA basketball coach, he was making reference to the fact that, there could be a lot of changes coming forward, and he was kind of hinting around, they're not even certain which conference they're going to be in. He wasn't as bold, but that's kind of what he was hinting around at. Mm-hmm. But Larry Naga was making a comment, and he was referencing the additions to the ACC to help secure their long-term future. One was more or less, again, I'm probably doing a bad job relaying this, but there was like two different mindsets. Virginia knows that they may not be around much longer, and Miami, with all the things that you've said and I've heard others say, and then reading articles like this, I think Miami's expecting to be around for a while. I'm not sure Miami's one of the targets to leave. I think some people are kind of giving it away just from their public statements. Am I reading too much into that?
I think all of us are reading too much into everything, so don't worry about it. But send me if that was in an article, and if you can find it, can you DM me that article?
I will. I'll locate it. And it wasn't anything like, obvious, but it was just the way it was phrased, and it was just, that's kind of curious.
Yeah. But I can't say if you are or not. These coaches are being, the athletic directors are communicating to these coaches constantly. So about future budgets, about future exposure, about future recruiting budgets, and for some of these schools, they might have the opportunity to go to a different conference, like Virginia. There's definitely a school that has an opportunity, so they're talking about it. It's not like the coaches are not. It's not like the athletic director is not talking about it at all with their coaches. So it could be something there, no question.
Sure. Yeah, and when one quick thing about the whole Michigan thing and how it relates to other coaches, I don't know how many other coaches are going on the record about the ethical nature of what Michigan is alleged to have done. I'll keep the alleged part in there for a little while longer.
Yeah.
But they did ask Mike Norvell, and Mike was, he typically doesn't want to delve in too much into all that, but he more or less just said sign stealing, a lot of the other antics have been going on for years and they happen every year. But he did acknowledge that if what is alleged to have happened, that's beyond the pale.
Yeah. That's
completely unethical.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see how many more coaches now start going on record, and man, if South Carolina was colluding with Michigan on a few of those games, I don't have anything against South Carolina, but they shouldn't be able to skate. They should face some backlash themselves.
Unless, first of all, I haven't even gotten into that story because I am not too. The people I talked to have said, Greg, there's no real confirmation that happens. So I'm going to stay away from that for now. And let's say if it did happen, South Carolina might not know, probably don't know how the information came about, right? No, I don't think Michigan's going to say to South Carolina, whoever on the Michigan staff is giving this information to the South Carolina staff. I don't think the Michigan guy is saying, hey, we do this in-person scouting. We know this is all good for you to use against Tennessee. So South Carolina, you would have to prove that South Carolina knew where this information came from before they got punished. And I'm not sure if the story is true anyway. So that's my take on it.
Well, whenever stuff like this happens, the pendulum always swings really far the other direction.
Yeah.
And rumors become assumptions,
Yeah.
And so I'm like you. I don't want to speak too much on it, and I wouldn't even been commenting on the whole Michigan thing.
Yeah.
If I didn't see some of it with my own eyes.
Yeah.
There's just some of it's just so blatant. It's like, well, what speculation is there left? Now it could be a lot worse than we think, but there's no, there's been some confirmation in some of it, so we can definitely speak to that.
Yes.
But anyway, enjoy your show like always. I appreciate it, sir.
Appreciate it, JD, Mr. Seminole. Appreciate it, man. John Teal, thanks for your super chat, your continued generosity to the show. Very much appreciated. Chris Peterson of Michigan would be nice. Yes, it would. I don't think Chris Peterson's interested. I think he's gotten to that point in his life. He doesn't want to. He's probably not going to do this again. But on the whole, yes, that would be nice.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate, can I have you hold just a moment?
It wouldn't be a call without me waiting.
I just want to get to S. Reed, Super Chat, Texas Tech, Red Raider. Greg, thanks for going live this morning. Great show. Thank you, S. Reed. I appreciate your generosity to this channel. Thank you for helping us keep the lights on. Immaculate, the floor is yours. Holy smokes. TCU, they were tipped off by a lot of schools.
Yeah. Can I say kind of a different talking point about that? And I don't want to go.
You can do whatever you want, man.
A lot of people that have a lot of feelings about it, and I'm not. That's not what I focus in on. I generally do realignment stuff. But what I don't get is this TCU thing really kind of made me think. Like, you'd have to be dumb after that game, or just kind of, I don't know, just almost stupid to not realize, like, the gig is up. Like, if you're Michigan, the gig is up. I mean, and those coaches, when they meet in the middle of the field afterwards, if you're the TCU coach, aren't you, Sonny Dykes, you're poking that a little bit, aren't you? Like, yeah, it's almost like someone new, right? Like, you're making some kind of a comment. You're not just running over there to Harbaugh and going, good game, coach, good game, get him next year. I mean, you had to go to a lot of work and effort to make up for what people told you about. And then it became clear the way they played that it was true. How dumb is Harbaugh for not getting rid of that guy after the TCU loss? And I know this is going to catch a lot of shade, but does that open up the possibility that maybe he actually didn't know? I don't think so. I think he had to know. But it's just weird. Like, they had to figure out, at least someone on the team had to figure out, like, coach, I think they knew what we do. Am I way off on that? Because if I'm way off on that, I would love to know, because that way I can throw that up. Yeah.
My own, I don't know if you're off at all, but my only thing is I don't think anybody had the evidence. They might have had a suspicion, but not the evidence that it was in-person scouting that made Michigan's hand-stealing signals at such a level way above anybody else. I don't think they had the evidence. So that's why. But yeah, but
as Michigan though, you don't, like, it's pretty clear. Like, they were, like, there's been so many pictures of it that.
Yeah, but this has come out. Yeah, this is like, it is strange though. Like, everybody, like, a whole bunch of schools knew that something was up, or this guy was just like a savant or whatever, but they knew he had the placard, this hand signals.
Yeah, exactly.
They had a strong suspicion at the very least, and you would think that would get back to Michigan. That somehow somebody would say, you know what, we got to quit doing this, or tamp it down, or be more careful with it, or something. But I don't know. They were either oblivious. It's not just Jim Harbaugh. It's like,
no,
you're the defensive coordinator. You're the defensive coordinator of Michigan. There's not many jobs better than being the defensive coordinator of Michigan. And at some point, you got to say, geez, my whole reputation is going to be shot to hell because this is going on. Right?
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like, this TCU thing, like, they should have been like, whoa, we may need to chill on this, but they didn't seem to take that at all. They didn't seem to even get the hint. They kept this guy on for another year. This is a $55K or whatever he makes, assistant analysis. Like, you toss those guys left and right and no one even knows, but they kept him on.
Okay, we got a comment from Kiran Shakar. Thank you for the comment. Rumors online say the investigative firm is U.S. Integrity, who is contracted by the Big Ten to ensure integrity in betting market. I haven't seen that. Thank you for bringing that up. I'll do some poking on that. I would say, in regards to the Big Ten hiring an investigative firm to check this out, and we were talking about this on our last live show, Immaculate, would they have the authority to get access to Michigan computers and all that? I go back to what Adam Rittenberg said, and I put up on the screen. Confirmed that the Big Ten can initiate its own investigation into Michigan under the sportsmanship policy if it deems necessary. That hasn't happened, but Commissioner Tony Petitti has the authority to initiate a probe. So according to Adam Rittenberg, what's been told to Adam Rittenberg, and this was October 26th, this was yesterday, that the Big Ten had not started their investigation yet. So that would fly in the face of that rumor about the Big Ten hiring an investigative firm. What are your thoughts on that, Immaculate? From any angle you want to take.
No. smoke and mirrors. Don't necessarily think that anything the big says to a media person right now in the middle of this is going to necessarily be the truth. You kind of got to look at the wordplay that gets used. Like they say, no investigation has been taken part. Well, that's because in their mind they're thinking, oh, but a probe has, or oh, this has. So it's about the word usage and what those words mean, in legalese. And when they're saying, yeah, we haven't done this, that doesn't mean something's not happening. And if they have this company, and someone, as Reed just said in chat, that you look at the U.S. Integrity website and it lists the big as a client, that would mean that they would have some kind of access already given to them. Just to be contracted to do that, they would have to have access.
Mm-hmm.
So that seems to check that box. And if it's about, betting and all that, well, that does fall in with this.
Yeah.
This type of usage is going to affect that. And that's kind of been a wonder of mine. Like, people are wondering, well, where's this guy getting all this money? It's probably from the school. But at the same time, it could also be people that are actually trying to abuse the betting system. Like, if you're helping this team do this and get these wins and totally crushing the over-unders and the high point totals and all of that, you can make an awful lot of money off of that.
Okay, now we're getting confirmation of something here, Immaculate. S. Reed said, just looked at the U.S. Integrity website, and they list the Big Ten as a client, along with other Power 5 conferences. Shakur is correct. Per the contract, they have the right to check computers.
Noah firms did it. This one would meet all the requirements to be that possible firm. I'm not going to say that's the firm, but
let's pretend. Immaculate, you know how much I like to pretend, right, on this show? Like I pretend the Gophers are going to win the Big Ten West and all those things.
Hey, good.
Let's pretend that U.S. Integrity. Thank you, Shakar, for bringing this up, and S. Reed and everybody else. Thank you for bringing it up in the chat. Very much appreciated. Let's pretend that U.S. Integrity did check the computers based upon making sure there's integrity, with the gaming. Because the Big Ten probably sometime during the next off season is going to be signing a big time contract with sports books because they're going to be giving the sports books real time data. We've talked about that previously. Let's say U.S. Integrity did this. They checked it out. They said, "Holy smokes, this is not good." They recognize it, but they gave it to the NCAA. Now, maybe they gave that information to the Big Ten, and the Big Ten said, "Holy snap, you have to give it to the NCAA," right? But the only reporting that we've gotten so far is that the investigative firm gave it to the NCAA. We don't have knowledge that they gave it to the Big Ten. Is that correct?
Well, the initial report, and this was all kind of what was sticking out to me too, is that the firm that was contracted, or this firm that was part of this investigation, let the NCAA know, and that's what started their probe. But that doesn't mean they didn't let the Big Ten know first. That just means them talking to the NCAA is what started the NCAA's probe. Like you're saying, though, if they're contracted with the Big Ten to do this, then they probably would have let the Big Ten know first, I would think. That's who's paying you. So you generally want to apply it before you go.
And then the Big Ten might have said, give this to the NCAA.
Yeah, probably.
Well, it's all plausible. I got to say that. Right?
Yeah, but no, the Big Ten knows that the NCAA is going to have difficulty going farther than that. So it's like, cover our butts by letting the NCAA know the Big Ten can handle this much more efficiently in-house. And that's why I say when people are thinking, Petit is not doing anything, I tend to not believe that. It's just he's not going and grabbing a media guy and leaking out what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So there's no reports coming out because they don't want to report it to the media yet. So that's kind of how it works with media these days. I mean, no one's really digging in and going to do a lot of investigation. They're going to follow him and wait until they get a statement, and no one wants to burn that connection in the future. So
and now we're just speculating here. Another point of if it's U.S. integrity, one part of the story that would fit well into that is I've been sitting here going, who hired the investigative firm? What were they looking at? Because to me, Immaculate, there's a whole lot of people who could have went into that Michigan computer, saw the scheduling of people going to the stadiums, saw that the download videos of the phone being downloaded 3 days after a person videoed a game in some other stadium. You could have a person see all of that from an investigative firm and not know that this was against the rules, right? They could have looked. A lot of people would have looked at that and said, "Oh, this is kind of interesting," but this is not a violation of anything unless you are a person who is in charge of knowing what the rules are, knowing you're protecting like the betting integrity or the sportsmanship integrity of this game. So that part of it kind of fits in well with the U.S. integrity being the investigators, in my opinion.
Yep. It makes sense. Whether it's truth or not, I don't know, but I haven't seen a more plausible option for that.
One other thing, Immaculate, I want to bring up to you. I brought it up on last night's show.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't be in there with you guys. I just was not feeling all that well.
No problem. Now this is just complete. This is from a perception of a Michigan money perch guy, okay? He has a certain fear about how this persisted, how it started, how it persisted, and how it grew to such a level. And his fear is what led to the growth of this was nepotism. Some form of nepotism. In other words, much like the offensive coordinator at Iowa, Michigan has a now this is all just, I'm not reporting nothing. I'll put up the allegedly speculation, okay? Mm-hmm. That, Jay Harbaugh and Connie Stallions supposedly had a friendship, were close. Everybody knew they were close. This is coming from the Michigan Money Perch. And that it sort of gave cover and credibility to what Stallions, why he was on the sidelines, why he was doing what he was doing. It was sort of a, even the coordinators will look at it like, okay, this has been approved because Stallions and Jay Harbaugh are, they're connected, they're friends, they're spending time with each other. This is something that, I guess we'll just keep doing it because this has obviously been given the green light. What are your thoughts on that? That is what a Michigan money guy, because I guess this is known that Stallions and Jay Harbaugh, I didn't know it. I don't know, obviously I don't know these two guys at all, but some people who know the coaching staff and who go to these big, big swing dings, cocktail parties, whatever, they know that these two gentlemen are close, Jay Harbaugh and Connie Stallions. And maybe that gave Stallions more credibility faster, and maybe no one wanted to have judgment against Connie Stallings and what he was doing. Nobody wanted to bring up questions on what he was doing because of his relationship with Jay Harbaugh.
Yeah. I did kind of want to talk about FSU a little bit before I go, but I will say to this, probably know exactly how a Hawkeye fan that is frustrated with the Ferentzes feels about this.
Yeah.
If that gave this guy extra credibility with what he was doing because the son was saying something and head coach Harbaugh was looking at his son and saying, well, if you think he's okay, then it's okay, then that's a major weak spot. And that might be the so-called death of them, so to speak. Not literally, but, figuratively speaking.
Yeah.
And
but that's just
Not
the
the
fear.
one,
That's the
but-
fear from one gentleman. So who knows?
And it's the same fear at Iowa City. Like the word out of Iowa City is that Kirk can't even deal with his son on a lot of issues because of their connection. So their offensive coordinator has to deal with the athletic director for a lot of things which normally would get handled, business-wise, contract-wise, things like that. And so it's just it's just not good. Like, this is 2 cases now in the Big Ten where nepotism is just not good. They should not have. I get, like, at some lower level, maybe like, when Brian was good at offensive line coaching. I don't know what Harbaugh does, but it's a weak spot for these guys.
He's the special teams coach, I believe.
He's too high again too.
Yeah.
I think once they get to that coordinator level, I think it's too much. Like, they should have to go somewhere else to get to that level. Like, let them prove themselves, because Brian was great as offensive line coach. I mean, Iowa was known for its offensive line under him, but once he moved, it ruined both the offensive line and our offense. And now in this case, it's given his son too much leeway to push this. Maybe, I don't know. It's just it's unfortunate though, and they're going to take a big hit here eventually.
Yeah. What would you want to say about Florida State?
Oh, well, it's just very interesting. I was listening to the call, and the last big meeting we had, they wanted that scene, they wanted the big statement to go out. And if you remember afterwards, the SEC had some words to say about that via thank you. He wasn't very appreciative of it, if you remember.
Yeah.
And now this time, we just had all these rumors that the SEC is now open to FSU. There's a connection there. That's the more likely case. And now with this meeting where they could have done the same thing, pretty much did the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. I'm not saying after going to the SEC. I mean, I have actually said that, but I don't mean because of this.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that it kind of, these are the little details you got to look at. And as your caller said, the Miami thing, the Virginia thing, what coaches say, these guys aren't always necessarily the best liars. So sometimes when they're saying something and they're trying not to tell you something, it still kind of comes through.
Yeah.
And that's how, how I felt, is that Virginia is going to get pulled with North Carolina, and Miami is kind of getting left out. Their stadium fell through. It's just, and probably connected to Notre Dame. It makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole meeting kind of staying held down kind of gives maybe a little more credence. I don't know what you think about it, but if that gives a little more credence to the idea that they're now trying to do things the SEC way. I don't know. What do you think about that?
It makes sense. I think, again, you're either on something, you're either onto something or you're on something.
Well, I can tell you right now, I am on something because but
yeah,
that's why I said on the whole TCU thing about the meeting of it. I was like, tell me if I'm way off on this, because it's very possible. For me, I have a hard time understanding how they didn't get the hint, but clearly they didn't.
Well, Florida State has another board meeting on November 10th. and we'll see if anything pops on that one.
I don't think we're going to get anything until we get other movement, like,
Yeah.
PAC, and then CFP has to get their new rules put through. And that happens possibly this coming month. Are you aware of that? What day that is?
Yeah, I don't know. I was told today that the Big Ten football schedule for the 2024 season with the actual dates of the games is not coming out today. I know there's speculation it was. It's not coming out today. I was told that earlier this morning.
That's interesting.
Yep.
Because they had basically come out and said that it was, didn't they?
Kind
of like.
No, they didn't. I was told that there was a chance,
Okay.
but I was told today that it's not happening, not today. So I'll see if I can find out when it's going to happen, so I can get everybody a peek around the corner. But
Thank you.
yep,
All right, man. We got some things to look forward to in
Yep.
the short term then.
yep, big games this weekend, except for Iowa.
We need the week off.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. All right,
Yeah,
sir.
fantastic.
Appreciate the call.
Good talking to you. Have yourself
All
a good day.
Yep, you too. Immaculate. Some good theories. Very good call. Absolutely. Immaculate could host his own show. Absolutely, he could. He's on with the Big 12 Mafia. Does a great job there. Him, Mowing, Nathan Brown. They do a fantastic, and Wild Dude. They do a great job. It's a great show. Yep, at U.S. Integrity, our goal is to help ensure that every sport and competition is fair and transparent. Yeah, I'm going to have to poke and prod on that one. We're gonna close it down, the live show. We wanted to do one this morning into the lunch hour to talk about TCU was tipped off by numerous schools, numerous Big Ten schools, that the Michigan Wolverines were well advanced on stealing hand signals. And now we find out here in 2023 that people are finding out how Michigan became real advanced in stealing signs. It was because of in-person scouting, or that's what we're being told with all these reports. We're going to continue to follow this story and so many other stories across college football. We're getting into week 9. We went through some of the conference races. We'll do more. I'm going to be on live Saturday night, tomorrow night. Not so much a watch party, just doing an aftermath of the afternoon games and the morning games, and then talk about all the games that are going on Saturday night. So I'm going to be going on about 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. Join us. We'll be watching a plethora of games and talking about college football in general. What we've seen already on that Saturday and what we're looking at right now in the Saturday evening. So join us. Before you leave our stream right now, please, if you haven't done so, subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. And then let's share this video across your social media platforms. Share it with your family and friends. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.